Good morning, good morning, good morning. What's up, folks? JT here with another Chart Talk Live brought to you by Xtrades. Hope everybody's doing well. Sorry, I'm just a minute or so late getting started here. Let's get that screen sharing going for Xtrades Discord. All right, that should be up and running. Let me copy link for this channel. Oh boy, I'm getting flagged by the AI moderator. All right, let me go clear that real quick. Approve. Thanks for approving. Okay, cool. Let's get over here. What's up, Kimberly? What's up, LB? Navy Plum. Good to see y'all. New trader. Good morning. Hope y'all are doing well. All right, let's see. Video Microsoft Founded. These are all extra charts that we don't need, at least not yet. Yeah, looks about right. Okay, cool. Let's dig in. Oh, there's two new traders here now. What am I gonna do? Gonna call one cartel and the other new trader. uh, Everybody gets fly. Poor Shinobi gets like timed out like 17 times a day, and I have to go let him out of jail. But we'll get that AI moderation working the way we want it to. Don't you worry. All right, so let's take a look at things in the markets. What are we seeing here? What should we be planning for? How will that inform our decisions? From my personal perspective, let's turn NTS on real quick. Let's get to all right. So from my personal perspective, actually, let's go down one more time frame. This will give us a little bit more detail on things. All right. So again, let me finish this sentence finally. From my personal perspective, what I'm seeing is definitely signs of what is likely going to be the beginning of a corrective move to the downside, that should provide some long-term buying opportunities, I think, once that move completes. So let me zoom out real quick and talk about this from a different perspective. So we're looking at this here on the weekly chart. And if you get really zoomed in, there's kind of a couple of potential trend lines. They really kind of make a very tight little support channel that's been pushing the market to the upside for quite some time. Got a couple of bounces to kick things off here back in May of this year. Got another bounce there November of last year. Sorry, I meant May of last year. That's not what I said. Another bounce here November of last year, and then another bounce here in January of this year. Saw a little bit, not a little bit, a pretty big sweep below it a couple of weeks ago, where we had that Thursday that sold off pretty hard. Friday was enough to essentially save the day and keep that weekly trend from invalidating. We saw something quite different last Friday, in that when the market tried to reclaim this trend line, looking at it on the smaller time frames, watching the SPY chart, we were rejecting it and rejecting it pretty cleanly. So if anything, we've seen a breakdown and a back test on smaller time frames. We may see a back test here on the higher time frames as well. That's not a given, but certainly possible, especially as long as this daily demand zone and 67.75 level are holding. I wouldn't be surprised to see a bounce, back test this trend line on some of the higher time frames and find a rejection there. That will then take it down lower. Ultimately, where would I be looking for this downside move to complete? There's a lot of confluence that I'm seeing anywhere in this neighborhood right here around 63.57 all the way up to 64.31. For example, if we go to the daily chart here, you can see that currently we have that 333 SMA kind of down in that range. If we go back to the weekly chart, we can see that we may, it's highly unlikely, but we may see, depending on how long that move takes to play out, this 200 SMA wind up somewhere in that range. I also measured this off last night. What does that look like to take us down to the bottom of that weekly demand zone? That would be about a 10% correction from current all-time highs on ES to that base point. I think 10% sounds like a nice, round, reasonable correction number. So anyway, a few things I'm looking at that tell me that we're probably going to enter a sell the rips mode here for a little while. Use that to your advantage, and then obviously when we start to get down to some of these key levels on the way down, don't be afraid to start launching some, cash reserves into the market and some long-term hold positions that'll be on sale. Any of the big Mag 7 names are a pretty good idea for this. Personally, the one that I'm kind of eyeballing the most right now is Microsoft. It's already down quite a bit from the highs, and if it pulls down even further, it really starts to look like a pretty decent value buy to me. So just a few things to think about and consider market in general, but so far, again, I think we confirmed the beginning steps of an overall corrective phase in the markets that's going to bring us down quite a bit lower. Again, we may see some bull traps and things that push us to the upside that ultimately result in a back test of this trend line that then takes us lower. So it's not automatically that we're going to move down, immediately starting today. But I would certainly be eyeballing and trying to find good setups and good opportunities for short or bearish positions based on kind of how the market is setting up here currently. So just a few things to think about there. Let's get to some trade plan recaps. Then, of course, we'll get to work on some new trade plan ticker requests live together here this morning. Datadog we did last Tuesday. This one was put right after their earnings report had pulled up into this range. Has given us several breaks to the downside. Looks like it's just begging to break down and push down further to me. Hasn't invalidated or broken back above the stop loss average down level from the plan. If anything, last Thursday was a nice confluence there with that 333 SMA here on the 2-hour chart, pushing right up into that confluence of resistance with that stop loss average down level in the 333 SMA. So Datadog, one of those names that looks like it's kind of just looking for the right excuse to break down to me. Could always push from here, but chart's not really showing that, at least for the time being. So I'm watching for put PT1 to hit here probably today, possibly today. And then below PT1, I certainly see a good opportunity to take us down to PT2 at minimum sometime this week if PT1 gives way as support. GLW, Corning Glass. So this one's kind of just been consolidating. Let's zoom in on this a little bit. Consolidating between the put and call entry levels. Did give us an open below the put entry, but that got bought up, took it all the way up to the call entry there Friday where it rejected. Now it looks like it's starting to pull back and may follow the rest of the market, although Corning is one. I mean, with what they do, glass is kind of used everywhere. So, Corning could very well be a kind of resilient name, relative strength name as we head into a larger picture market correction. Let's just see if they have any. Yeah. So anyway, keep an eye on it. Again, they are kind of in a league of their own a little bit. So keep all that in mind. I think they could be a good relative strength name. Could get a court decision on tariffs as soon as Thursday. Might be possible. Let's go. All right, so let's go. Let's see. Let's IGV. We have next. This is the software tech sector ETF. Tried to give us a break over the call entry there, but couldn't quite make it happen from there. It has broken to the downside, broke below the put entry, took us very close to PT1 there last Thursday. A little bit of a bounce going into Friday. And also, I'd say some pretty good relative strength to the markets there, but now that relative strength looks to be fading some. Definitely looks like it's got a bit of an uptrend that it might be trying to hold here. And trying very desperately to hold. If that gives way, I think we start to see our downside targets play out. And IGV being a good put entry if it loses that ascending trend line there. Veil. Let's get here. Let's get to some smaller time frames. All right, so Veil definitely looked like a pretty convincing break out of the gates, but I would certainly say a little bit too far extended. However, also looked like a pretty good backtest entry opportunity there. That ultimately failed and broke to the downside. Broke below the shared stop loss average down level there. Now it's testing the 333 SMA here on the hourly, trying to find some support there. That'll be very interesting. If it does, we could see Veil try to push a little bit off of that 333 SMA. If that gives way, well, then certainly I see very little keeping us from starting to hit some of these put price targets. Starting, of course, with PT1 right there at 15.99. Next, we have Microsoft. Microsoft is overall chart looking quite a bit bearish. It did lose this potential uptrend I was watching last week. So go ahead and get that out of the mix. Again, potential downtrend overhead that certainly seems to be valid, at least so far, but not 100%. We want to see that third test and see how the price reacts to that. Below the put entry here at 399.84 and looks to be back testing pre-market, so we could see Microsoft play out to the downside and possibly go for a couple of these price targets. Could potentially see a new low after trying to make this bottom here around what 390.55. Could see a new low below that and it heading down toward 388.60. Does have demand down there as well as that being a decent support level, so watch 388.60 for a potential bounce opportunity that could ultimately wind up leading to a short the rip opportunity and being more of a dead cat bounce than a true bounce that's going to be sustained. Sorry, just get a little water in their throats. Getting a little scratchy on me. And then last but not least, Palantir. This one was a fantastic short. We did it last Thursday, and as soon as we charted this one out, gave us the break below, back test rejection down to PT2 plus. Yesterday, last Friday, back tested PT1 as resistance right into the heart of this bearish momentum that led to a gap down here, and it's trying to hold PT1 as support this morning, but looks like it's starting to flip that to resistance. So we could see PT, there we go, could see PT3 plus for puts on this one, especially if it can't reclaim that PT1 there at 132.25. All right, so let's get to work on some new trade plans. Welcome, and good morning to everybody who's joined since we got this thing rolling. I appreciate y'all being here. Let's see if we can't find some opportunities to make some money. Turtle Trader wants to take a look at pins. If y'all have any other chart requests or questions, anything along those lines, feel free to start dropping those in the chat. I will do my best to get through as many or all of these as possible. Man, pins is getting smoked. Did they have now? I was gonna kind of ask myself if they had stock split at some point. I'm not seeing one, at least not indicated here on the trading view charts. So Pinterest is at new lows, essentially. Or not new lows, but lows it hasn't seen in a long time, I should say. Just clean this chart up real quick. All right, let's get going. All right, what are we going to do with you pins? We may have to go quite a ways back to find the last time it was in this range. Yeah, COVID 2020. Get this for a second, just so I can see the price action and nothing else. 319, 2020. I think that would be a good kind of surprised if it goes lower than that, but market surprises on a regular basis. So curious to see how, yeah, doesn't quite line up as well as I thought it would. That does though. Hmm. All right, I want to see these indicators now. Yeah, we're well below all the moving averages too. This is not looking good for old Pinterest. All right. Lots of sweeping below this 1443 level. Entry, but let's confirm this. Going back to that last time. Yeah, we should be able to take a look at one of those for you, Kevin Musician. Welcome, welcome. Come on, where's that price action? Here we go. Nope. 2020. There we go. Yeah, that was the level that we bounced off of for a nice push to the upside. Small gap to fill there still, down to 1386, but may have already filled that with some of those liquidity sweeps we saw below this 1443 level. I'll double check that here in a second. All right. I don't know how I want to set this up. At least I think I do. Let's check this recent price action. But assuming right about this, be looking for this same sequence to play out back to the downside. Let's see. Yep, there was the gap fill right there. So that's what bounced us. That gap is no longer there to fill. Don't think it bounces us a second time. So in that scenario, so make case for that 1443 being just a little bit higher. I want to check this one last thing, and then I think we got this downside plan figured out. Yeah, it could be just a little bit higher. Right about there. Yeah, yep. Okay, cool. So, come on, man. There we go. That sets up our downside trade plan. Upside, again, be highly skeptical of upside here. Come on, price action. Where are you? Here we go. Oh, no. Any minute now. There we go. Yeah, that's about what I was looking at. Right back over this 1606 level. I do want to confirm my anticipated stop loss average down here. Get back that far, are we? Wait a second. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Yep, that stop loss average down is right here. PT1. PT2 up to this fair value gap fill. PT3 here at 1917. All right. That gives us a good plan to work with regardless of which direction we decide to go. Let's get this plugged into our trade plan. Yeah, big move down below 1303, in my opinion. Whoa, whoa, whoa. There we go. That looks good. Let's clean this up. Where? Oh, there it is. All right. Let's go. Here comes your Pens live stream plan. Chat. Monday, close of business. All right, so let's talk through this real quick and then we'll get to our next trade plan. What are we looking for here on pins? We're looking for a break over 1606. That should bring price targets at 1748, 1839, and 1917 with a stop loss average down at 1530. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 1386. That should bring an early first price target at 1303, but below that, big downside move opens up, in my opinion, down to 1151. And then continues on down to 1049 with a stop loss average down on that downside trade plan there at 1451. Those are your pins, live stream plans. Let's go. All right, so that knocked out Turtle Trader's request, MU or net. Let's take a look at MU. This one could be decent short setup. Looks like we did some trend-based fib extensions on it not too long ago. Let's real quick those to the right, see how those line up. So that was based off a prior all-time high here. Those levels seem to be playing out pretty well. That 78 points or 0.786 did reject. Trying to hold a pretty steep uptrend line that, if that gives way, certainly could signal some downside getting ready to take place here. Could see that across the board on some of these memory names. They have been running quite, boy, all my old MU levels are really all that useful down where they are. All right, well, let's check this out real quick. Let's see what we can find. I don't expect to find a lot here on this weekly chart. This is definitely a key level, though. I'm going to want to keep on watch. Yeah, it's just been a little too parabolic to really set many support and resistance levels, at least on these higher time frame level or higher time frames. What I meant to say. Really going to get from that. Again, not too surprising given how parabolic MU and other memory names have been moving. Totally convinced by this one yet. Let's see. Check that out in a minute. Bit of ceiling right here. Okay. 4-hour chart. All right. So we're kind of eyeballing these two levels. This one's probably just a little bit higher here. Hmm. Yeah, it's decent right there. Still a gap to fill to the downside. All right. So where does this start to look profitable? Hmm. Okay. So could be a little bit earlier than that though. All right. Let's take a shot at this. Might be calling this a little bit early. If I'm right, this could play out very nicely. Pretty good risk reward. Yeah, on this plan as well. All right, then the question becomes upside. Where does that start to look good? Hmm. Right. That trend line holds, could push us over that 419.64. Does. I think that takes us up to 433. 447.55, and then yeah, I think we'd be, if it does push back to all-time highs, which I'm very skeptical about at this point. 456.61 would be a silly place for us to not take profits. All right, so let's lock this in. Do I like this setup? Um, I do. Yeah, I definitely like it for the downside. I think that's a big area of opportunity that it could uh, move through quite quickly if 398.96 does give way as support. So yeah, I like it, and I'd be leaning toward downside. That kind of goes with the overall market picture that we talked about at the beginning of the stream. Oh, man. Uh, Six. There we go. Stop loss at 409.82. All right. I'm actually going to separate these out to their own group. All right. Excuse me. All right, what's up? Morning. What's up, history buff? Let's take a look at SLV. We can try to take a quick look at that before we wrap up here. What was I doing? All right, this is our new live stream plan. Yeah, let's get this posted over in the elite chat. Yep, there, and me there. All right, cool. Good, we're good to go. All right, let's take a look at SLV. This will likely be our last one for the day. It's up a bit. Is tapping into some demand here on the daily. Small gap to fill overhead that takes us up to 69.48. Back into the SMAs here as well. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Why is that going on? Don't need that right now. Okay. What do I want to do with silver? That's a great question. Hide those for now. This looks like a pretty key level to me. Silver, what are you trying to do? Well, I think we've got a downtrend here that we'll want to keep on watch. These aren't all that relevant anymore. Interesting couple of bounces here. This would be extremely hypothetical, this trend line, so does put us right at the bottom of that demand zone. That's a long ways away from where we are currently, though. Is there a better entry? Ah, here we go. Nice double bottom there. Yeah, that could be a good entry level. I would not, with that being the entry, be looking for a whole lot more. Two levels tied up on each other right here, so let's adjust. Yeah, I'd be looking to test the bottom of this demand zone. PT1. Stop loss average down right about here. Bullish hit. I'll try to take a look at Apple for you quickly if I have the time, Ryan. Yeah, let's look at 62.32. Second price target. Then we've got a gap to fill. That's pretty much all that is on silver at this point. But those gap fills tend to reverse the price action. I think we'd be remiss not to look for some profit, taking on a downside trade down there at 61.07. So that's the downside for silver. Where does the upside get interesting with the gap to fill to the upside? As of this morning, looks like a pretty decent level as well. Let's see. It's going to be about dead on 1-to-1 risk reward on this. So not an ideal setup on this upside plan, but could start to see gold and silver disconnecting from stock prices. That would be a good thing for them, I believe. Whoops. Just debating whether or not we can get up to 70.92. I think it can. I might be planning that first price target too far out. It could be closer to 69, 69. I'm sure there's a Doge staffer who would get a giggle out of that. Let's see. Yeah, I'd be looking about here for a second price target. Third target. It's interesting. Take another look at this, but over that PT2 could see a bigger move to the upside on silver. Would also likely constitute a breakout over our, well, yeah, that's a pretty well confirmed trend line there. So that's what our plans look like. Definitely look a little wonky and lopsided, but it is what it is. All right, so let's get this dialed in. Goes for another minute. Let's go. All right. Plan. It's over in the morning live stream. What's up, Ford Rockstar? Good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining. Much appreciated. So if I open trade plan you saved, how do I open the levels? You would have to document these on your own end if you want to set up trade plan navigator to match up like mine. There's not like a easy way to import them, but you would just go through the settings, plug in the levels, set your alerts. There's a whole tutorial PDF. So if you're interested and want to get set up for access, just shoot me a DM. We'll get you squared away. I certainly recommend folks do it. I mean, obviously the bot's pushing out stuff into the chats, but that can be easy to miss. All right, so let's get this in. Was that in the elite chat? No, I didn't yet. So here comes our SLV live stream plan. Yeah. Copy that link. Set our alerts. Cool. All right, so let's talk through this one last time. What are we looking for here on silver? We are looking for a break above 68.28. If it can break above that, we might see a push to the upside to 70.89, 72.36, and 75.74 with a stop loss average down at 66.87. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 65.63 that should bring price targets down to 63.61, 62.32, and 61.07 with a shared stop loss average down with that upside trade plan there at 66.87. Those are your silver live stream plans. All right. With that being said, folks, I do need to get to work on the SPY plan. I hope you all enjoyed our session this morning. Reminder, we will be back Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So until then, as we always say here on Chart Talk Live, plan your trades and trade your plans. Remember, we're looking for profits, not perfection. So keep those wins big, keep those losses small. Go out there, get some green. Have a fantastic day. I will see you all in the chats, and I will see you back here Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Take care. Have a fantastic day, everybody.